Today, the jury deliberates in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Biden signs the infrastructure bill. He calls it historic. Oh, it's historic, all right, but for all the wrong reasons. And Dr. Fauci says you are mistaken if you think that your individual rights supersede societal safety. Is he correct? I don't know what country he thinks he's in, but this is America, and we've got a lot to talk about. It all starts right now. Hey, welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez. I am excited about today's show. We have got a full table once again. Joining me, we have Jaco Booyens, host of the Jaco Booyens Show and BlazeTV contributor himself. I should say BlazeTV contributor extraordinaire. I like that better.
It's good to be here.
It just sounds fancy, right? It sounds
This
fancy.
is my favorite show.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. This is my favorite show, too. Also joining us, we have Jim DeMint, former Senator Jim DeMint, also chairman of the Conservative Partnership Institute and author of the new book, Satan's Dare. And Jim, I want to get into that with you here in a second, because I think it is.
With you, Sarah.
Thank you. I think it is. It's very timely. Your book. Also joined his maiden voyage on the show, joined by Brendan Leslie, who is the founder of Florida's Conservative Voice. I love your shirt.
This is great, and I wanted to make sure I cheered myself on. Not only our horrible president, but also myself, and it's great to be with you because I've been following you on Twitter forever.
Yeah,
and it's so weird to just full circle be here today. So.
I know. It's nice to finally meet in person, but I don't know if you realize this, your name is actually Brendan, not Brandon.
Yeah, no, I am Brendan. Everyone's always been calling me Brendan accidentally my whole life, and I've just accepted it now. I think I've been trained for this moment.
Yeah, there you go. Now you got the shirt. So before we get into the stories of the day, I kind of want to set the stage because, Jim, I think that your book, Satan's Dare, is very timely. We were talking about it before the show started, and we were talking about how it's just about truth, which I think we've just completely lost sight of as a society.
Well, Glenn Beck said he thought it was the most important thing I'd ever written, and Josh McDowell said there's more truth in this novel than just about any nonfiction he ever read. And it actually started as a science research project to prove the Bible was true, because our country was founded on biblical Judeo-Christian ideas, and it seems we've just lost confidence that the Bible's really true. So for several years I worked on this. It was just in the weeds, research, science, creation, all this stuff. My publisher said, you need to turn it into a story so people can relate to what these characters are going through and the questions they're asking. And so we turned it into a novel named Satan's Dare. It comes from the first chapter of Job, when Satan dares God to remove blessings, but Job still prays God, and that's how we defeat Satan in this life. But I think it's the most important thing I've done too, so I'd love for people to read it and have confidence in what they believe, because that's the battle today. I mean, it seems to be political, but we're always in a spiritual battle, and truth begins with God, and freedom comes from knowing truth. And so our whole country is built on that basic idea.
Yeah. Where can everyone find the book?
Well, Amazon's got a great page on it, believe it or not. And I actually found one copy in Barnes & Noble here in Dallas yesterday. So hopefully you can find it in bookstores, but it was on sale for like $19 or something yesterday when I looked at Amazon. So,
great.
Satan's Dare.
Well, yeah, please go pick it up. Like I said, it is very timely, and I think very timely for today's conversation. I would say with just the Rittenhouse trial, but I think it just goes kind of across the board here. So the jury in the Rittenhouse trial is, let me just say this, you never know with breaking news, as of the time of this taping, they are still in deliberations for this particular trial. It's, I felt like, I'm sure there's a lot of pressure on these jurors, but I just thought they went into deliberations this morning, and I thought, I feel like they should not take too long.
I was just about to say that. I'm a little nervous. The fact that it's taking this long, that means everyone in there is debating that he's guilty.
Right.
And
right.
that's just a sad thing. It could go the other way.
I don't know, Brennan. And Sharon and I talked. It could be, but it could also be that they understand if they are absolutely going to acquit him, they want to get it right. And I hope, as an optimist, I hope that is the case.
Sorry, I'm the pessimist at the table.
Yeah, no. It's not that. But I'm going back and forth between two. It could be a really bad sign.
Yeah.
Because even the 5 yesterday are saying, oh, this is going to go quick. And I'm like, there's weight. It's a small town. The jury,
there's pressure on them.
There's a lot of pressure.
They just watched their city burn. They may not want to see that again.
And they got to live in that city still?
Yeah, I think they're discussing how they're going to get out of there alive if they found him not guilty.
Well, so I want to get into the questions that they asked, because they did ask for clarification on something that I think is important. But let's get into that for a second, because you bring up a great point, Jim. The judge, Bruce Schroeder, has already received hundreds of really horrible messages wishing homicide on his kids, threatening his life. I mean, he is receiving death threats left and right here because he's the judge, and I guess because, he made the mistake of having a patriotic song on his cell phone as his ringtone. And
making a funny joke.
Right, yeah. Making a joke and generally being what I found to be pretty fair. Yeah. I actually was surprised that he didn't go through with dismissing all of the charges because I just didn't feel like the prosecution proved their case. But he's receiving death threats, and I'm over here thinking, you know what? I feel like it's always a good rule of thumb. If you are not on the side that is sending the death threats, you're doing okay.
You're probably on the right side.
Yeah, I feel good about that.
People always ask me, what does God want me to do? I say the opposite of culture. And so, but this is a guy that was nominated by a liberal. Which is significant. Yep. So there's a judge in this day and age that's actually still, looking at the rule of law, which is refreshing, right? It really is.
Well, I mean, you have this, to go back to your point, Senator, you have this push and pull of, are we going to go with truth or are we not? Right. And it seems to be that oftentimes that mob justice really is what we're looking for. And I don't mean we at this table, but I mean we as a society, we're looking more at mob justice than actual truth and justice.
The left has become real bullies, and they've seen through intimidation and fear, they can get their way. And that's the thing I'm worried most about this trial, as the jurors and the judge just may worry that how are they going to live in their hometown, how are their children and grandchildren. I mean, that kind of intimidation and threats, I mean, it just shouldn't be going on. But that tells you, if the truth were on their side, they would not have to be threatening to burn down a city if the verdict didn't go their way. We shouldn't tolerate it. I mean, it's a horrible situation, and we need to shut it down when people start burning buildings after this.
Yeah.
I was in Kenosha after the riots and during the riots, and I can tell you that little town got rocked. Yeah. And they are scared. They are scared for their lives. And this is the main reason I used to be a journalist for CBS affiliate, and I quit and I started my own company because of this very reason. They lie. They're lying, and they're doing it right now with Kyle Rittenhouse, and they're amping up this false reality that he is guilty, he is a white supremacist, and it's brainwashing the people. The people that are standing outside that courthouse, they're saying we're going to burn down the city, are probably the same folks that saw it on CNN, MSNBC, and all these other idiots on the screen.
But Brennan, look, I'm from South Africa, right? So there's been racial tension my whole life, right? How are we having a race conversation when there's not a single person in this trial that's not Caucasian?
Yeah.
The race should not even be on anybody's lips in this. White supremacy, all these things. It's insane, right? But my question is, to your point, these people still need to live in this town. It's almost now we're at a day and age where jurors need some sort of a protection program, like a witness protection program, that we have.
Not even be in the courtroom. Maybe.
Yeah, correct.
But the problem, the media's been lying to the country for the last year, and I don't remember the exact statistics, but a lot of people thought that the folks who were shot were black.
Correct.
And I think a lot of the rioters probably still think that, because if you listen to the mainstream media, there is never clarification for what you just said.
Absolutely.
This is an all-white issue. It has
but I
nothing
think it's
to
by
do with
design.
It is by design.
Yeah.
They have to make racism the issue.
So in Kenosha, this was interesting. I thought that Kyle actually selected. It was like a lottery system. He pulled the numbers of the jurors out of a tumbler. I mean, it literally was like you're playing bingo and you're picking out the balls to call out the numbers. So he picked the jurors. He selected 6 of the 18 jurors to be alternates, and then the other 12. There are 7 women, 5 men. I think it's sad that we have to look at this, but these are the statistics, right? 1 person of color, they say. Yeah. And that's the demographics of the jury. They also asked about 45 minutes into deliberations. They asked for clarification on the jury instructions, specifically the first 6 pages, which also outline the components of self-defense. So I printed out a copy of these first 6 pages. It is very clear. I mean, it's the standard. It is your duty to follow all of these instructions, regardless of any opinion you have about what the law might be. You need to follow what the law actually says. It talks about the charges. It talks about the state's burden of proof, the general principles of self-defense, the determining whether beliefs were reasonable. So it says, a belief may be reasonable even though it's mistaken. You have to determine whether or not a person of average intelligence would believe the things that this person believed at the time, knowing what that person knew at the time. There is no duty to retreat. It says you should also consider whether the defendant provoked the attack, which I know the prosecution tried very hard to make it sound like Kyle Rittenhouse did provoke this attack. However, I mean, I think it was
as he's laying on his back in fetal position, being kicked in the face.
On video. That's why it's like, it's more of a, believe me, don't believe your lying eyes, because they've been shown actual video proof that didn't happen. The meaning of intent to kill, deciding about intent and motive, and of course the statutory definition of the crime. But, Yaku, you said you think that maybe they're just trying to make sure that they get it right, because I hear this and I'm like, oh, I feel like they should be pretty clear on this already.
Look, a part of me thinks this, right? If they were going to find him guilty on one or all charges, I almost feel like that was going to be swift. Because I feel like they're going to acquit him. They are contemplating the ramifications of an acquittal for themselves, for the community. And so they're saying, hey, can you bring these first 6 pages back into the jury room? And let's remember, the original jurors are selected by the prosecution and defense, the lawyers. So it's not like Kyle could handpick people from the beginning. This is picking the 12 from the 18, right? Here, randomly, that he's selecting from a tumbler. But I think, hopefully, the deliberation, and it has to be unanimous. Mm-hmm. If there's a single juror that goes, I don't agree either for an acquittal or for, then we keep trying the case.
Yeah.
Listen, right. I'm up there for as long as it takes. I'm deliberating in that jury for years if I have to make sure that this kid is not found guilty to pay the price for Kenosha burning last summer, when he didn't actually, according to the law, I believe, in my personal opinion, commit this crime.
Right.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I don't want to be one of those jurors ever.
I don't either, but I'm just saying, and I think it's as a mom too. You watched him on the stand really lose control of when he was giving his testimony. You watched his mom sobbing along with him. As a mother, and there are 7 women in there. You have to believe some of them are mothers. I'm like, absolutely not. I can see that, like, if that ever happened to my son, I would never want someone to just go, well, it's a small price to pay. Yeah. He pays the price so that our city doesn't burn again. No, absolutely not. I couldn't let that happen.
That's supposed to be the point of our system, is that things like that don't happen.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of arguments you can make that Chauvin was way overcharged in his trial. And you're seeing the same thing with Kyle and with these jurors. You're absolutely right. They're probably sitting in there and they're saying, we need to come out there. If he is found not guilty, we need to present the best, most clear reason as to why he's not, in hopes to save that city.
Yeah. We can question Kyle's judgment of whether he should go over and defend it, but I guarantee you there were millions of us Americans sitting there looking at that city burn thinking, why doesn't somebody do that?
Exactly.
And what he did was what I think a patriot would do is, okay, I'm going to go, and I'm sure he wasn't hoping for any confrontation, but just to stand there and hope that it helped save some of the buildings. And his dad lived there, and they never wanted us to know that. It's like he went to some foreign country.
And it was, A 30-minute drive?
Yeah, his dad lived there already. His mom was a 30-minute drive.
Minutes or 17 miles.
Look, and there were so many lies. Look, the weapon was already in town. The weapon wasn't out of town. So many lies were spun in the beginning, and then the hard pivot late in the trial when they lost the weapons charge. It's not a short barrel; it's a long barrel. The whole deal, right? Then they pivot to okay, he was provoking them. Where in the beginning of the trial never came up. He's of course not provoking. This kid's running for his life. Gets attacked several times. I mean, so for me, I look at this and I go, guys, this is just clear, cut, and dry. Yeah. This is as simple from day one. When the footage is out there, to your point, we actually have video footage, praise God. Imagine if there was no camera, no chance. Then it's hearsay and it would be whatever. But there's multiple angles from multiple sources. So for me, it's so cut and dry that I'm always asking me, where has our logic gone in the country? But there is fear. Can you imagine the inside of that jury room right now? There is fear for a whole city imploding. And we no longer have juries that are immune to the outside world. There's no more such as a sequestered jury today. It gets in. Fear gets in. Messages get in.
There are mobs outside the courthouse. I'm sure they can see them through the windows.
Hear them.
That's not justice. When it devolves into fear and intimidation, we got to fix that system. There's a lot we got to fix in this country. Good news is people are starting to get aggravated and rising up on the right side of this thing.
It's all part of the plan, really. This is just another play in their playbook to completely uproot our entire society and change it into a more communist socialist society. And by doing that, you need to rule by fear and intimidation.
You also need a lot of useful idiots, which the left has.
Their whole entire...
Just saying. I mean, we just talked about all of the people who were like, this was about race. That's why the white guy killed all the white people. All right, we've got more to come, but first we want to thank our sponsor, Omega XL. So I don't know if you realize this, but you have like 360 joints from your neck all the way down each vertebrae to your back, your arms, your hips, all the way down to your feet. That's a lot of joints that can take a beating with all of your daily activity. And just aging, I don't know, maybe you have reached the age where your joints just hurt constantly and you wake up in the morning and you're like, I pulled something. What'd you do, honey? I slept and I pulled something. Maybe that's you. If that's you, you got to try Omega XL, all right? Omega XL is made from it is an essential fatty acid combination from the waters of New Zealand. So I'm gonna be sexist for a minute, you guys. A lot of men might be saying for a second, if it's natural, I'm not taking it, it doesn't work. That is not true. It is backed by 35 years of clinical research, and it actually neutralizes the inflammation that is causing your pain, which actually will put a permanent end to your pain, not just mask the problem. So if you are in pain, you got to try Omega XL. It can be life-changing. Order a bottle of Omega XL now. Get a second bottle for free over at omegaxl.com/news. That is omegaxl.com/news.
And for all the men out there,
Well, I knew that as soon as we talked about the Rittenhouse trial and went to break, that there would be something else that would come up that I would need to add in here because, again, as of the time of this taping, everything is in flux. But apparently the jury also just asked the judge for extra copies of the rest of the instructions. So originally they had only asked for pages 1 through 6. They just asked for pages 7 through 36, which are all of the rules. And they mainly it goes through all of the other counts, all of the other charges that he was charged with, and explains the definitions of those, what to consider, how the state has to meet that criteria. So maybe they've already figured out what they're going to do on the first count, and they're moving on to the other ones.
They're being extensive.
I mean, that's good, right? That's what you want. Yeah. I feel like if they were going to cave to pressure, they wouldn't need to be going through all these rules.
I think they're killing time. You would think they'd sit down in the room and they would all have the instructions in front of them, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, you would hope, right?
I guess
that they already had them all.
It's expensive to make those copies.
Well, they want to be environmentally friendly, Senator.
I'll say this. If they thought they knew the law, prosecution definitely threw a wrench in it because prosecution lied so much in this and about the state law and whatever. So for me, I'm praying for this kid. I feel like this is probably them dotting I's, crossing T's, getting themselves ready to say, we're going to quit this kid, hopefully, and we need to be right, not just on acquitting him, but be able to defend, because you can't. You're a human being. You're sitting in there as a juror, and sure, you can turn your brain off and go, law, 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 but I'm going home tomorrow or 3 days from now. And it leaks I was on the jury, and that is a flammable situation in a tiny town.
The cancel culture, the actual physical destruction that happened in Kenosha. I mean, let me tell you, I wear this cross around my neck right now, right? I wasn't always a man of faith, and I became a man of faith when I faced the cancel culture on January 6th. Just being there in D.C., I took 200 of my fans up there because we wanted to go see President Trump speak, right? Just there, January 6th, I had 300 people report me to the FBI and say that I was destroying the Capitol. And I had to get interrogated by the FBI. I had to hand over footage to the FBI. I had to do all these things, and I feared for my life just being truthful. So imagining what I'm going through in that moment is 100 times worse for all these jurors.
Look, and I think something so important is we're in this case, in this trial, because law enforcement was instructed not to act when people were burning buildings down. So what faith and confidence do they have now that law enforcement would step in this time if there are more riots and an abuse? We wouldn't be here today if a 17-year-old kid was not called by others to come defend property when the police wouldn't show up because their lawmakers told them stand down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And people died because of riots. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I want to switch gears here for a minute because as we were all talking about the Rittenhouse trial yesterday, Joe Biden signed his $1.2 trillion, guys. I said trillion, $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. It is the Infrastructure and Jobs Act. This is going to, they say, inject $550 billion of new funds into transportation, broadband, and utilities over the next 5 years. It also represents 1/2 of Biden's domestic agenda and opens the gate to passage of the second half, a $1.75 trillion social spending and climate change bill, of course. Joe Biden said, this is historic. I ran for president believing it was the time to rebuild the backbone of this nation, which I characterize as working people in the middle class, which is weird because I feel like he keeps kicking the middle class out of their jobs. So it's strange to me that he keeps saying that he holds up the middle class. In this time, right, he's signing this bill, $1.2 trillion. They mentioned that was 1/2 of his agenda. He's also got this other social justice spending bill. Let me just tell you guys that they actually they calculated it out. A new analysis says that that price tag, it says 1.75 trillion, but it actually will be closer to $4.9 trillion. This is from the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, who released their report. I'm going to go to you first on this, Senator, because I'm sure you're no stranger to any of these price tags and how they always end up being way more money than what they say.
It'll probably be more than the $5 trillion the budget office is saying, because what happens is Congress, when they're trying to fudge on the numbers, they just change the assumption that this spending will stop after 1 year or 2 years. It never stops. As a matter of fact, it becomes part of the baseline. So they add to it, and if you try to take it away, they say you're cutting.
Right.
But the $5 trillion that they're saying is in a 10-year window. And so you go out, we already are estimating more than $10 trillion in new debt over the next 10 years. And this is another 5. So we'll be way over $40 trillion. Our economy, and we can't hold up with that. So they're trying to bring the country down. This is not because they're stupid. This is because they want financial chaos so they can reorganize our economy. And the best way to do it is just to crash the dollar and crash faith in our credit. And so I've become real cynical. I just thought for a while it was because they didn't know what they were doing. They know exactly what they're doing. And just like in 2008 when everything crashed, the people who caused the crash ended up with more power. The banks that caused it essentially now have control more wealth than they did before, and the government has more control. It's the little guy in the little bank that got hurt. So this infrastructure is maybe 20% infrastructure at best. The rest is a bunch of nonsense.
That's right.
I was going to say.
Well, everything is infrastructure now.
Again, it comes in with the fake news and big tech. Both of them are saying it's an infrastructure bill, but you know what? If journalists actually did their job and they actually read this bill, they would have some real questions and bring some real alarming issues to light, and maybe that bill doesn't pass. They're saying it's infrastructure, but really it's just another communist bill.
I can tell you from being there, if McConnell wanted those Republicans to vote against the bill, he would have. Yeah. But the money went home to Kentucky, and just as we talked about, there's no reward for all of those who voted against it.
Right.
Their chambers of Congress will hate them, and the papers will write negative articles. So you wonder why those rhino Republicans voted for this. Is because that's where they get the reward from. Yeah. They're going to get money in their campaigns. We've got to change this system now. You're only rewarded for spending money and growing the government.
From a senator, what he just laid out for you is it's trickle-down economics. So what they do at the top will hurt the guy in the street all the way down, and the politician knows it. He still also has to run for another election. His constituents, the negative articles that will come from Chamber of Commerce, the pressure that comes up the chain, and so they bend and they break. And the rhinos inside the system, the McConnells, for me, even Lindsey Graham, these guys who are in position, who have been there forever, who could, if they wanted to, say no, say yes because they understand the benefit for them personally in the future, and that's my opinion. So it's an overhaul of a system, which is why I am an absolute term limit guy. I'm just for it. Our founding fathers worked 2 jobs, work the field, plow, come run the country, be president, go back home and do something. So I'm for that, but it is crashing a system because you can't restructure it if you don't break it. And again, I'm from Africa, for crying out loud. We see this. This is not a new model. This is how you would do it.
Yeah.
If you were to restructure, this is the playbook, and it's by design.
And they call it bipartisan because of those
13.
Foolish Republicans.
And how many of them are from New York?
Gosh, I don't know.
Too many.
Yeah.
But it's not only, they knew by voting for infrastructure, they were ushering in this second spending bill, which will be even worse as far as the policy goes. And they've changed the assumption and brought it down to where Manchin said he wanted it, so but hopefully he won't give in here. It's got some policies in it that'll fundamentally change our country.
Yeah. And to your point, really quickly, I think, Senator, we actually saw, I believe it was Jen Psaki, go on television and say, basically, we're using the pandemic as a reason to restructure the economy. Right. So, I mean, you heard it from them. They're saying the quiet parts out loud now. You can go back and listen to them. They're saying it themselves. All right, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Genucel. So I was actually just sharing with you guys, I posted it on Twitter earlier. My child, my baby, was up from the hours last night of 10 p.m. to 3 a.m., maybe closer to 3:30. And he wasn't crying. He wasn't, like, he just was like ready to party. And so I don't sleep. And when I say I don't sleep, I really mean I don't sleep. But you may not know that. I feel like I look pretty well rested. That is all due to Genucel from Chamonix. This is the company that utilizes plant stem cell therapy specifically for eye puffiness and bags, which you need this if you're not sleeping because you get the dark circles and the eye puffiness and it makes you look way older than you are. Even though you feel it, you don't have to look it. This is a really, really powerful natural serum. They've got immediate effects also, and it is guaranteed to show results in as little as 12 hours, or they will give you your money back. This is a true Chamonix classic. It contains 8 extra ingredients to reduce the appearance of bags and puffiness. Go look at this before and after. Throw that up on the screen. Show them. There we go. From now until Thanksgiving, you can see the difference. You can get 60% off all Genucel packages. Just go to lovegenucel.com/Y. That is lovegenucel.com/Y for 60% off. Order now, and express shipping is free. Dr. Anthony Fauci, he was raising eyebrows again. He's really good at doing that with everyone. I think this happened yesterday. I don't know. It happened this week. He was arguing that some Americans have actually just a misplaced perception about their individual rights when it comes to weighing that versus societal safety during this pandemic. And I want you to watch this video, but I also would like to just point out, what the hell is he wearing? Okay, he's wearing a turtleneck underneath a button-up. Who does that? Anthony Fauci does. All right, watch.
One of the things that to me was most difficult to accept is that we put together a good plan for how we were going to try and dampen down the spread of infection early on, thinking that that was accepted by everybody. And then the next day, the president saying, free Michigan, free Virginia. I didn't quite understand what the purpose of that was, except to put this misplaced perception about people's individual right to make a decision that supersedes the societal safety. That, to me, is one of the things that I think went awry in all of this.
Went awry in all of this. You know, I've been saying this for a long time. I feel like a broken record now, but I'm going to keep saying it because it continues to be true. You are being conditioned to view your freedoms as selfish. Okay. That everything that he said right there, gentlemen, correct me if I'm wrong, everything that he said right there is actually not true at all. The entire reason that America was founded had to do with individual rights, not societal safety. Like this is very, very basic knowledge about the entire reason that America exists. Yet this communist over here, yeah, I said it, wants us to believe that we are all supposed to do this for the greater good, this collectivist mentality. It is not about your individual rights, or you may think you have individual rights, but only while we say so. Because whenever we say your individual rights disappear, you got to move over to the collectivist greater good mentality instead. It's shocking to me. It's terrifying to me how many Americans actually just go along with this. Like a seal.
Yeah, and you just said it. If
that was a pretty good seal, right?
Yeah, very good seal. Yeah, you're very
Can we
good.
see the sheep next?
Yeah. She's real. She's real. It's all Sarah. I'm just telling you.
People are always like, "You overact. You're not that." No, that's just me.
That's just.
I'm just ridiculous.
Look,
Sorry.
I'll say this, and that's the issue. If we can redefine your individual rights once, we can always redefine it, and you can't.
So do they even really exist?
No, this is
communist
communist behavior. This guy couldn't pass an American immigration exam if he had to on the constitutional, rights of an individual and liberty and freedom. But they don't want you to have liberty and freedom. Yeah. They don't want. This is a process of eliminating your rights, and it's through fear tactics, etc. Maybe he wears that black turtleneck underneath so he can hide like Antifa behind the mask. You just pull it up because he understands that if he walks in any area of this country where people actually believe in freedom, right? He would probably get mobbed. But no, this is the programming, the brainwashing, right? And this is why we call television programming, because you be programmed. It's why it's programming. It's a programming, and it's taking us away from being a republic where the small guy matters, not the majority, okay, to a democracy. And historically, South Africa went from a republic to a democracy, and now it's basically communism. You slip so easily from democracy into socialism. It's hard to do that from a republic. And it's just take individual liberty, Second Amendment, take those two things, and off you go. And you will have Canada in a flash.
Yeah, Senator, one thing that just drives me nuts, many things drive me nuts about Anthony Fauci, but I think the biggest one is, like, we didn't elect him to be making these kinds of statements. Yeah. Nobody elected you. You're not a lawmaker. You are not the president. Why do you think that it is somehow we should be giving a crap what your opinion is on individual rights?
Yeah. What bothers me a lot about, 1 minute these guys on the left are saying a woman should have absolute right to decide what happens to her body.
Yeah.
Except if we want to give you a doggone shot. And that turtleneck, by the way, was from the 60s. They called it an ascot, just so if you want to know. I know all of you hadn't been born yet. It is a terrible name.
It just doesn't. It doesn't match with the button.
But it's scary when, a few years ago we were talking about medical privacy, and your employer couldn't ask you about it. Your own doctor can't even call and say anything to your wife. All this privacy, and now we got to tell them if we've been vaccinated or not. And
now the person flipping burgers at the In-N-Out has to be the vaccine police.
Yeah, and we can't go to work if we don't have it. And so this is scary stuff here, particularly because the facts don't back it up.
Yeah.
No one under 60 is really at risk, not even as much as the flu for the most. And to force children to have it when this is, again, the science says the flu is more dangerous to kids than this thing is. So they're not even using real truth. And, we were talking about truth and lies at the beginning of the show, and that's why it drives me to just point out the lies and talk about the source of truth. And but the fact that media acknowledges him as the king of truth here, when we can report that he lies almost every day.
I mean, what was that journalist doing? Why didn't he cut him off right there and go,
right.
You're wrong. Like, we have a Bill of Rights for a reason.
Because the journalist has no clue.
Journalist doesn't know because journalist was cast in this movie like he was cast.
Yeah. Yep. You're completely right. And it's really unfortunate because those Bill of Rights, unfortunately, our counterparts on the left misconstrue the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. The Bill of Rights were given to you by God, right? Mm-hmm. And journalism is deprogramming you, reprogramming you, however you want to word it, to make you believe that you don't have these rights. They come from the government. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's the Communist Manifesto, literally, right there.
Yeah, I mean, really, these are communists among us, and people call it conspiracy theory. I mean, just look it up.
Well, about 6 months, you'll be right.
Right, exactly.
But you make a good point. If we don't know that our rights come from God and that they're inalienable, then we start believing that the government can give and take rights away, of the individual rights of freedom and to our children and what they learn in school. I mean, this thing just keeps going on and on if we accept that the government is giving us our rights.
I watched a YouTube video the other day, and it's a New Zealand family that loves America, would love to live here, and they have their kids sit and they watch the behind story of the Star Spangled Banner and what actually happened, what each lyric actually means. And they're weeping as New Zealanders going, wait a minute, you mean that they were under attack and they said, is the flag still up in the base of a ship? Is the flag still up? And they go, the flag's still up. Then to learn that the flag went down many times. Men died, piled on, and stood up and put the flag back up. And Americans don't even know what our very national anthem means because we don't teach true American history in schools.
Yeah. That's why I love Governor Ron DeSantis. He passed legislation that they are going to start teaching American civics, get back to government civic classes because we're not learning that in schools. And if you want to turn our society into a communist society, where do you attack first? The schools. That's why you see so many issues with the school boards and these teachers because that's step number one.
Yeah. All right, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor really quickly, Hunter Douglas. So you've got a home, you like to live well, you want to be at ease in comfort, style. Hunter Douglas can help you do that. They have innovative window shade designs. They have really, really awesome fabrics and control systems. They're super advanced. They actually can be scheduled to automatically adjust their optimal position throughout the day. So if you have, at a certain time in the morning, you can't look towards your window because the sun is shining so bright in your eyes, you can pre-program it to lower so that doesn't happen to you. It makes a huge difference just upgrading your shades. Maybe you're walking around your house like, I don't know, we just need to update, we need to upgrade, maybe we need new furniture. Try just redoing all of your window treatments. It really can make a huge difference in your home. You can visit hunterdouglas.com/Y. Take advantage of the Season of Style Rebate Savings event. That is hunterdouglas.com/Y. This is limited time savings. These expire December 6th. So hurry on over there. Don't sleep on it. hunterdouglas.com/Y. Brendan, you were discussing before we went to break Ron DeSantis and the things that are going on in schools there. You actually are covering and really, really focused in on what's happening in schools in Florida.
Yeah, so we still have the blueprint for success with Glenn Youngkin focusing on the family issues and schools. In Florida, why Governor Ron DeSantis is pretty much unbeatable at this point is because he's so focused on making sure our schools are teaching how to think and not what to think. And recently, Florida State University, it actually admitted to my company, Florida's Conservative Voice, that they are teaching critical race theory, but they're not calling it critical race theory. It's racial bias. So they're making students in their honors curriculum, they have to take this quiz in order to pass and graduate, called a racial quiz. And they ask you how warm or cold you feel towards black people and white people. And it's meant to really divide amongst race.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So when a lefty tells you, critical race theory is not happening, it's find it in the curriculum.
Yeah. Well, so and I think that goes back to the point that you're making, Senator, on truth, is that we have all of these facts. We know what it is. We know it's being taught in these schools, and yet they still go, no, it's not. No. Well, they said it's not, so it's not.
Yeah, well, that's the big difference I see
maddening.
today than when I first went to Congress 20 years ago, is we could argue about the role of government and things, but we weren't arguing about truth and facts.
Yeah.
Now we can't even agree on things that are right in front of you.
Right.
I mean, that's and you can see it. They may change the name, you're right, but they're teaching racial bias and racial constructs and everything that creates animosity between people. And it just isn't going to end well, because, what white parent wants their child to go to a school where they're teaching the black kids to hate their children because they're white,
or teaching the white kids to feel guilty for
to
something
feel
they
guilty
didn't
about
do.
being white, and so all of this is just meant to divide. That's where the Democrats get their political power. If they didn't have racism, there would not be a Democrat Party, and they know it. None of their policies work. They have to keep telling people that Republicans and white people are racism, and we're the only ones who are going to protect you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very sinister. It's evil, but it's very real.
Evil.
It is, but it's so incredible to me too, because I mean, if you look at the history of who would the racist party be, historically it is the Democrats, and yet they're still able to get away with just saying, no, it's them. They're the ones who did all these things.
You're right. I mean, the Democrats control the segregated South, and Abraham Lincoln was
Jim
a
Crow
Republican.
laws,
I mean, it's crazy, but they won't look at the truth.
I guess they don't teach history either, which helps.
No, we can go on and on and on. Planned Parenthood, targeted attack on the black family, et cetera, et cetera. We can go on and on. But it's perfect masking. You accuse others of what you're guilty of.
Right?
James O'Keefe says it all the time.
100%. And how do you do it? With a multi-pronged attack. So you radically move the needle to, for instance, how many genders are there? And if I can convince you to question gender, why would you question something as my right to defend myself with the Second Amendment, or freedom of speech, or on the, so they come at you with these crazy innuendos and ideas that put your world in a spin. It's like up is down, down is up. And absolute truth is gone, which is the word of God. There's no other absolute truth. And so we need to return back to absolute truth. Live your life the way you want to live it. You have the right in the Constitution to do that, right? But we're not going to change truth. Yeah. We can't make truth fluid, right? Because where does that stop?
Right.
Stop being scared of getting canceled. You can't be canceled unless you let yourself be canceled.
Yeah, and what they're trying to make us believe, that whatever they believe is true. Instead of truth, you need to seek truth. It's what I believe is true. And that's the height of arrogance.
Yeah. We're talking about schools. Did you guys see this? I saw the clip that was going around Twitter of it was a black man who belongs to, it's not the Black Panthers, I think, but it's an organization similar to the Black Panthers, who went and told the school district in Fort Worth that they were going to be ready and locked and loaded if they did not start teaching, I guess, CRT.
It's the same thing we're seeing with the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Fear and intimidation, and that's how they're going to impose their will on us and really, like we talked about throughout this entire show, change our society.
Right. It's interesting because I don't think that the FBI, who just called a bunch of white parents basically domestic terrorists, got their talking points from that association, the School Board Association. I'm not sure that they're going to come out and call this guy a domestic terrorist, even though he literally was threatening these people with violence. But
I keep cutting in here, but nothing makes me more passionate than these issues. And I've been at these school board meetings and I have listened to these parents, and they are genuinely just care about their kids. And these kids are not racist. They don't go to school.
Yeah, but Brandon, you have to understand the enemy's playbook. That's Sun Tzu. Know yourself, but know the enemy. And we have neglected to know the enemy. We need to get ahead of stuff and stop doing triage in this country and play recovery and fix things. We need to get ahead of it. If we don't like it, take culture back. Step in and control the narrative.
Yeah, amen. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be back. All right, before we go, I want to make sure that you guys know where to find these lovely gentlemen. Jaco Booyens, no stranger to the show, host of the Jaco Booyens Show. You can find all of his work on Instagram. Where else can they go? They can go to Free Space.
YouTube, Instagram, Free Space, website,
It's
on the Blaze.
JACO, yes. JACO is how you spell his name. Everyone's like, how do you spell it? It's right there if you're watching. You can see it. It's at the bottom of the screen. Also, don't forget to pick up a copy of Satan's Dare by Jim DeMint, former Senator Jim DeMint. Like I said, it could not come at a better time.
Thank you.
Definitely something that you need to read right now. Also, You got to start getting your news from Brendan over here. It is flconservativevoice.com. I'm very impressed because you don't have children, right?
I don't have children.
I love someone that like you don't have children, but you are taking on this, CRT in schools and all of that. I love seeing that. It helps us parents know that we're not alone.
You can thank my dad for that one.
Oh, you have a good dad.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dad, for raising such a good son. Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Sarah.
We'll see you guys tomorrow.